Jason Smith, Assistant District Attorney, candidate for District Attorney. Thank you for being here today. Today I want to speak to you about the Office of the District Attorney, to assure the public of the great work we are doing to safeguard our community, but also to respond to some recent misleading attack ads by my opponent, the recent Governor Cooper interim appointee, Ms. Donaldson. Despite any rhetoric and attack ads that you may have seen recently, this office, for which I serve as senior prosecutor for close to 15 years now, is a group of dedicated professionals who are deeply committed to the protection of our community and the fight for justice for victims of crime. This is the same office that the people of New Hanover and Pender counties have confirmed their confidence in for the past 2 decades under the leadership of former DA Ben David. I want to ensure the public that however this DA's race is decided, we will not relent in our tireless efforts to make this community a safe place to live, lay down roots, and raise our families. It is for this reason that these recent attacks are so disappointing. While we anticipate many political races becoming negative and nasty, we should expect better from our district attorney. We expect our district attorney to build trust within our community, not to tear it down in hopes of winning votes. In the past 5 days, we have seen countless negative television advertisements and websites attacking me personally and professionally, and the decisions of this district attorney's office. I'm here today to say these advertisements are grossly misleading, inappropriate, and frankly, not in keeping with the standard of integrity demanded of an individual charged to hold the office of district attorney. You, New Hanover and Pender counties, deserve better. I am a military veteran, devoted father and husband, and a career prosecutor. I've prosecuted thousands, if not tens of thousands of cases over the last 14 years. Anybody that has been in this profession as long as I have would know that no matter how skilled we are as a litigator, we are only as good as the facts and circumstances of our cases. We know there are many reasons why cases are pled down, either from the original charges or maximum punishments. These reasons include the strengths and weaknesses of the case, likelihood of conviction at trial, uncooperative and reluctant witnesses, ethical constraints, constitutional considerations, and the wants and desires of the victims. I'm troubled by the accusations and intimations made about my commitment and service to our community as a prosecutor for the last 14 years. Out of respect for the privacy of the victim in the sexual assault case that was highlighted for scrutiny in this recent attack ad, I will not expound on the reasons and background on the disposition of that case, except only to ensure the community in no uncertain terms that this resolution was carefully and thoughtfully arrived at through meaningful consultation with the victim through her family. And Mrs. Donaldson knows this. Experienced prosecutors know that these cases are very personal and private to the victim. This victim, who has undoubtedly been reminded of her trauma every time this ad is played, should be thought of. I stand on my successful record. I stand before New Hanover and Pender juries for 14 years now, fighting for justice and advocating for victims of crime. It is for this reason that former DA Ben David entrusted me to represent this office in some of the most serious and heinous crimes, and elevated me to positions of leadership in this office. I stand on my record, I stand on the record of this office, and Ms. Donaldson should do the same. Thank you.
And are we able to ask
Yes.
follow-up questions?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna. Sorry, you go.
Yeah, so obviously I know in the release that was sent out, and I know that there is a document circulating as well. You know, you said that this is negatively reflecting not just you, but the district attorney's office.
Correct.
Can you speak on that a little more too? Because obviously this is an office that you both work in. Correct.
Well, my statement says what it says. As to the document that's been circulated, I assume you're talking about the petition signed by assistant DAs in our office, sent to both Mrs. Donaldson and myself. I think that document also speaks for itself. I'll leave it at that.
So, but that document is an actual document, because we weren't sure
Yes.
when we got it if it was.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's not spam. It's a document that was handed to Mrs. Donaldson and myself yesterday.
What does it mean to you to have the support of all of your fellow assistant DAs, both in Pender and New Hanover County, like that, especially on a document like that?
It means a lot. It means a lot. I've been with this office since 2010. Worked with many of these assistant DAs and staff members for the last 14 years. And they see my work every day. They have seen the cases that I have disposed of, tried, dismissed, challenged through. And knowing that they also find that these attacks are negative and unwarranted in this race, it justifies why I do what I do.
And follow-up question, I know that you said you were not going to expound on the exact case as
Correct.
respect out of the victim. Totally
Right.
understand that. This is one scenario though that's being placed in an advertisement, one specific scenario. Do you believe that is part of the reason you're calling this misleading, or any other reasons? Because that, again, just specifically that's one case. How many?
Thousands. I've handled thousands, if not 10,000s of cases in my career. And when you start picking and looking at one case or two cases or three cases out of 1,000 cases that you handled, I've said in my statement that there's many ways we dispose of cases for many different reasons. Strengths of cases, reluctance of witnesses. What do we think a jury is going to do? The likelihood of success in a jury trial. So when you start picking and cherry picking and not giving the full context to your community that you're entrusted to represent and you're entrusted to be transparent with, I have an issue with that, and that's why we're standing here today.
And another question, I know that you had said also, sticking to the initial promise of speaking on each other's abilities,
right,
and your own abilities instead of, going after the other candidate.
Yes.
Is that something, that you have adhered to?
Yes.
That you believe?
Yes. 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 Look, you haven't seen any negative ads that I've run. My ads have been about my ability, my experience in leadership, either leadership of my family, leadership in this community, leadership in the military, leadership in this office, leadership in the courtroom. That's what I've run my campaign on. Can we sit here and talk about the other candidate and talk about what's different about each other? Sure. I don't believe anybody's standing up here going, if we look at what we do and say, I do this different than him, or I do this different from her. That's not what we're sitting up here talking to the public about. What we're talking about are negative ads cherry-picked to do nothing more than try to gain votes by running negative ads. If you want to stand up here and talk about what you've done and how different you are than me, that's part of a campaign, and we understand that. That's not negativity. That's telling the public what's different about you. What sets, and I believe you and I have spoken about that. You've asked me, what sets you apart from your opponent? And we can talk about that. But you're not seeing me, and you won't see me run negative ads. You won't see me cherry pick down cases for political gain. That's not what we do. We sit here and we fight for victims, and my office doesn't sit here and get ridiculed for what one of their prosecutors have done. Because I guarantee if you talk to any prosecutor across the nation, they would say this is reprehensible. We dispose of cases in different ways based upon the facts and circumstances of the case, not for political gain or for political points.
Is there a worry that, going forward with this, regardless of how the race goes, whether you win or your opponent wins, that this might impact the district attorney's office in some negative way going forward?
Well, when somebody stands up and doesn't, we promise to be transparent, or at least that's what I promise. And Ben David for the last 20 years has promised that, and he has fulfilled that task, or fulfilled that promise of being transparent with the community. How can you be transparent with the community if you're going to mislead people about your political opponent? So will it have issues with trust? Yes, I think it does. That's why I'm here now, and I'm talking to the people of New Hanover and Pender counties of, do not sit here and think that this office is not looking after victims and victims and witnesses and victims of crimes. We are. This office is it's the best DA's office in the state. And by going after a specific DA for a specific case for political gain, it makes this whole office look bad, and it creates distrust in this community that we've tried for the last 20 years of building up.
And another question, again, with that in the document when it said, that initial promise that you guys did,
Yes.
that's something, just if you could explain, was that a verbal agreement or was that just something that you spoke?
We were asked to keep it clean and not negative. And I said yes. I'll leave it at that. You can ask my opponent what she said.
And I guess last question for me is, what is your hope, obviously, with the documents circulating and getting this? I mean, is your hope that this becomes off the air, and what would have to be done to make that happen?
Well, I believe that a person, if they are attacked, especially in this way, have number one, a right to defend themselves. I'm here talking to our community and saying, when you have misleading attacks like this, don't believe them. You judge me on the totality of my career over the last 14 years. That's number one. Number two is to protect this office and to protect the integrity of our office. We have 50-something employees that come here and blood, sweat, and tears every day for victims and the safety of this community, and that's why I'm here also to say, do not doubt this office. We're here to fight for you. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.